And we all have been asking for this. Finally, a close game, finally an upset. Welcome to the shiny side. We are reviewing England's game against Afghanistan, which was the biggest surprise so far. And with us today, we have Imran Aslam once again, live from Bahrain. Imran, welcome to the shiny side. What's your initial sentiment after watching that?
Thank you, Faris. So not a close game, but yeah, definitely an upset.
Yeah.
So maybe this is what we need to get the tournament going.
For sure.
I just remember 2011 World Cup. There was a headline after the India-England tied game, the 330 odd game. World Cup comes alight with tie or something like that. This was the headline on Crick Info. And I think today probably Crick Info will come up with this. England has again, I think, brought the tournament to life somehow.
A
Not in
lot
the
of
way they would have wanted.
a lot of England fans say that England is the
But
new
they have.
Pakistan, and England and Pakistan are the ones who keep these tournaments alive, right? By swaying back and forth. But to kick things off, I quickly do a 33-second summary of the game. So England won the toss, chose to field, and said, with no particular reason, we just want to chase. Afghanistan were 114 for not in 16 overs, led by Gurbaz's 80. But then they were about 233 for 7, lost a lot of wickets. Somehow managed to finish at 284 all out. And England were 33 for 2, lost best early on. They never really had a partnership of more than 40, I believe, after that point. Brook top scored with about 60 odd, but no one really got going. And Afghanistan had them out for 215. The spinners got 8 wickets between them. So big loss for England and a big shock, which is what we have. And that's the summary. That was 40 seconds. So Imran, to kick things off, if you look at the toss first, right? So England won the toss. Butler actually said, we're going to bowl, no particular reason. Do you think they made the wrong call there? Or I mean, you can't argue with that by not batting.
No, I don't think you'd argue much with that. I mean, this has been a chasing World Cup so far. I think barring a couple of games, maybe the Sri Lanka-South Africa game, most of the games between the relatively speaking even match sides have been chasing games or been won by sides batting second. So I don't think England went in with the wrong call. I think it's a pretty safe call.
I guess,
expect,
England love to chase. Having said that, I feel like, when you're playing a weak team, you can actually try to bat, score big, and put them under pressure. But if you want to optimize for NRR, then you could say, hey, let's put them in, maybe bowl them out cheaply, and then chase it down fast. So my sense is, I mean, it's easy to say this in hindsight, right? But I feel like had they maybe batted big, batted first, who knows what they could have got. But the NRR thing may have not worked for them. So England went in with an unchanged side. Stokes is still unfit. And I think they're really getting affected by that decision now. Afghanistan had one change. Ikram came in, and he actually was the one who will get to their batting now. So Gurbaz top score with 80 or 57. Seems like he's the only one. He probably was the one who's batted best on both sides. Nobody else was timing in the ball as sweetly. No one hit it so well. And Ikram also made 58 of 66. So Afghanistan somehow managed to get to about 233 for 7, and I thought they'll be finished maybe with bowl out for under 250, but they managed to get 280
actually,
there.
They were actually like 180, 190 odd for 6.
Yeah.
So their last 4 actually added close to 100 runs.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And that was a surprise there, right? And also, if you look at the bowling, England had to bowl 24 overs of spin. They had Root bowling in as well, and they all did. So the spinners bowled at about 4 runs an over or less combined, 24 overs. And they also got something like maybe Adil got 2, and I think Livingston also got a wicket. So clearly the Afghanis were really batting well against the quicks, but not so well against the spin. So the fact that England didn't play Moin over Curran, and while I understand why you wouldn't play a spinner over a quick against Afghanistan, but I feel like maybe they misread the conditions because it seemed like spin was doing the damage in both innings.
Yeah, definitely seemed like I think Afghanistan probably made a bit of a conscious effort to go after England's quicks. I think Curran went for like 40 odd in his 4 overs.
And he didn't come back after that.
And Wokes also, I think, similar figures. I think again 40 odd in his 4 overs, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think maybe a bit of a decision from Afghanistan to go after those two, and yet paid off for them.
Yeah, and also you're right, because I think we spoke about this in the preview as well, right? But Curran works very well in T20, right? Because he puts the ball in that hitting zone, and people can't really get him away. But in an ODI, I mean, I'm not sure if his skill set is matches as well. And then Wokes, again, I've had my doubts about him in this format. Topley's someone who's done well so far, and he did well last time around. But again, I think he didn't do so badly. But again, Vokes or Mark Wood also went for about, I think, about 5 and over. So the quick strike didn't do a great job. Moving on to England's batting, right? And to be fair, even at 280, you thought, you know what? Okay, fine. This is England. This is Delhi. It's the flattest track, or generally it's considered to be. But I think it's the bowling where it's the batting where England will have a lot of questions, right? Because I think Bairstow went in the first over. The best 3 players of spin are probably Bairstow, Root, and Butler. And spinners got 8 wickets between them. Rashid and Mujib got 3 each. Nabi got 2. So how do you look at the batting, Imran? I mean, what do you think happened there?
I think honestly at the halfway mark, England would have been confident of chasing it. I would have thought they would get the 280 odd, but they obviously struggled badly against spin. And I never thought I'd be saying this about this England batting lineup, but I got to say it seemed like they dug themselves into a bit of a hole. I mean, a lot of times there was no intent to score off spinners. I didn't watch a lot of the early part of the game, but I started watching when Curran was batting with Brooks at the time. And yes, they were 5 down, but they were batting out. They were playing out at the time. I think Nabi and Rashid were bowling. And both Nabi and Rashid had 6, 7 overs each to go. So it's not like they have 1 or 2 overs to go, you can bat them out. But there was absolutely zero intent from both of them to score even singles of those guys. And I think England really went over defensive. And not something you would say about this England batting line, but they went over defensive against Afghanistan's spin. And I think that's really what cost them this game.
Yeah. They didn't play the England way for sure. And Brook was quite good, actually. 66 top scored. He's the guy who wasn't meant to be in the squad initially, came in for Roy. Not meant to be in the 11, but is playing because Stokes has been injured. But he's clearly, I think when England go on to the next game, it'll probably be a tricky one for them, whether if Stokes is coming back, whether they leave Brook out or whether they take somebody else out, like Livingston or something like that. But yeah, so I think, like we said, they kept losing wickets. They never really were in control of the game. And big loss for them. If you look at where they are in the table now, they have 1 win, and they have out of 3 games. They need to win 5 of the next 6 games. They're really coming up against the wall, and it's a position which, well, this England side is probably not used to being in.
Yeah, definitely. I think big loss for them because they obviously they thrashed by New Zealand. We thought they'd come back to normal service after their second game, but then again, they would not have expected to lose this game. And now they have India, South Africa coming up,
a lot of big
games as well. Can be a tricky game for them. So they have all these big games coming up.
And Umair Kazi, who's on the show often, he's been saying since day one that he doesn't see this England side qualifying for the semi-finals. So let's see. Maybe he's been spot on from the beginning. If you quickly look at their fixtures, go on.
Yeah, while you pull it up, I think now the way things stand, India, South Africa, and New Zealand are looking very strong for semi-final slots. And then I think the last slot boils down to between England, Australia, and Pakistan. So that's, I think Umair's prediction might well end up coming true.
It might be a bit tricky for South Africa. South Africa has a game against England next weekend, I believe. I think that'll be a massive game, right? Because if England lose that, then they're back against the wall, and South Africa is definitely hitting that top 4. But I think if South Africa lose that, who knows, right? Because they essentially have beaten 1 major team so far, that's in Australia. So I know they're batting really well, but I do see some issues with their side. So anyway, looking at the fixtures, England playing South Africa next in Mumbai. They have a nice long gap. I think that's next weekend, that game. Then they play Sri Lanka. Then, India, Australia, Netherlands, Pakistan, right? So like you said, for a team that can only lose 1 game, that looks like a daunting schedule. So for sure.
It is definitely. On current form, South Africa, I'd be very concerned if I was an England fan with the current form South Africa is in. Sri Lanka, given the way England played against spin today, both Sri Lanka and India are obviously, India obviously, sure. They're but even Sri Lanka might be a tricky game given how England handled spin today. And by the time they get to Australia, it might just be too late for them.
Yeah, let's see. Maybe by the time they will play Pakistan, they're already knocked out, so they may not really turn up. But I think South Africa, one more point on that.
Consolation win and knock us out, but let's see.
One more point on that. South Africa, they're playing in Mumbai, which possibly is, we say that a lot about Indian state, but it's probably the flattest track in India. So South Africa would love batting there no matter who they play at the Wankhede. So that could also be an interesting dynamic.
Before we move, South Africa will go in with both their spinners.
They should.
Given what happened today.
Before we move on to tomorrow's game, I just want a quick comment. We haven't had you on the show since Pakistan lost to India. So just a quick comment from you on how you see that game and also how you see it affecting our campaign going forward?
Yeah, look, in all honesty, I would have been very surprised if we had beaten India. I mean, before the game, I was like, okay, I don't think we're going to win this game. But the way we lost was just, it was very, very disappointing. Didn't put up any semblance of a fight, maybe the first 25 odd overs, but after that, no semblance of a fight, which extremely disappointing. And fine, we still have 2 wins out of 3, and we lost one big game. But I think just the way we lost, it is maybe going to be very hard for the team to recover and come back from this. So we play Australia next, who has not been, I mean, they're not in the best of form, but I think we have some kind of a mental weakness against Australia. Their big past history in World Cups, not great at all. It's going to be for us to bounce back, but maybe again, what we need could be a confidence boosting win against Australian side that's out of form. Might just do the trick for us.
Yeah,
But
you know,
very disappointing yesterday.
something I thought of later that, you know, if you look at all the recent India-Pakistan ODI matches, right, India has basically dominated from the top. After a very long time, till 25 overs in, 25, 30 overs in, it looked like we were at par, if not ahead, right? Before things completely unraveled with that Babar Azam shot. So I think it was a bit of a harder hit to take in some ways. But
I think it was. I think we were going really well. And what I found surprising about yesterday, or the very disappointing the way we went, like when we were like 120 odd for 2, I think there was at that time, for some reason, we seemed to go into a shell. And I mean, Babar at one point, he's batting on 30 of 28 balls. The next 21 balls he faces, he gets another 7 runs. So that's probably another like 6, 7 overs in which he got another basically 7 runs. And I think that he allowed the Indian bowlers to settle, bowl to their fields, bowl to their plans. And then by the time Babar got out, they were all settled, they were all in good rhythm. And then it just unraveled completely from there on.
Yeah, oh, well, I guess we'll be talking about that game coming up against Australia going forward. But for now, let's look at tomorrow's game. And in some ways, it affects, I guess, what's coming up next for us. Tomorrow's game is Australia versus Sri Lanka, which I think is a super interesting game. Given where the tournament is, it's at Lucknow. And Australia and Sri Lanka both have lost two out of 2. And effectively, whoever loses tomorrow will officially be in that position where they can't afford any more losses if they want to qualify. So I think before we came in, if Sri Lanka wasn't really, I guess, a very fancy team, but Australia obviously was. They always are, right? So I think massive game for Australia. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely big game for Australia. It's like kind of a competition to see who gets up from the bottom of the table, keeping Netherlands and Afghanistan area. So big game for Australia. I think a couple of unfortunate injuries for Sri Lanka. I think Shanaka is missing the game, and their Malinga-like bowler, what's his name? Pathirana.
Pathirana? Is he also missing?
He's doubtful. So he's also doubtful. So so that could, I think Pathirana especially could be a big loss for Sri Lanka. Shanaka maybe, I mean,
and
I think
Lucknow is the same
so
ground.
big.
Yeah, Lucknow is the same ground where Australia just played South Africa, so they'll be familiar with the conditions. Having said that, it's not like they managed to track them and do well. South Africa managed to get 280 odd, and Australia obviously didn't get very far. If I look at Australia's likely 11 for this game, so this is the likely 11 I think they should go with, and I don't know if they will. But if you are playing Inglis, Josh Inglis is a very successful opener, top order batsman in the Big Bash and the domestic tournaments. They're batting him at 5. And given that given that Travis Head is meant to come in and open anyway, this is how I would put the 11 together. I would put Inglis at the top, open with Warner. It's a much more aggressive way of doing things. Marsh at 3, which is generally where he bats until Travis Head got injured. I have Smith at 4, Labuschagne at 5, Maxwell at 6. And I know Labuschagne at 5 may seem low, but I think of that as insurance, right? So if you lose your third wicket after the 30th over, then you never don't send him in, just send Maxwell up. And that's how I would structure the team. Any thoughts on that?
Last time 11 is last time. I think they will go change 11, but you're basically shuffling up the batting order.
Well, this is the same 11 as last time. I'm just changing the order around. If you're playing Inglis over Carey, then I think he should bat at the top, which is where and given especially that Travis Head is meant to come in anyway, they're all batting out of place anyway for that reason. So it kind of puts everybody back in their position. And it's a bit more of a, you're taking the game on a little bit more if you go in this manner.
Yeah, I think it is an interesting change to make, but I doubt Australia will make this change because I think they have a settled batting order. not really doing well. And then also if Travis Head comes in, then he has to open. Then Inglis goes back down to 5 or 6 again in the next game. So I think that might be too much disruption. So I think they'll probably stick with the same batting order that they've been going in with.
When we did the Australia preview together before the tournament, you also had Sean Abbott as in the 11. They so far haven't played him. Any reason to bring him in for one of the quicks, you think?
I mean, their batting has obviously collapsed in both games, or not got to 200. So you might want to shore up the batting, and that's pretty much, I think, the only option they have of bringing in Abbott for.
But I mean, Stark has been Stark. Hazelwood is brilliant. Cummins is the captain. So who do you drop?
Yeah, that's the problem. So I don't think they'll make a change. And I mean, Stark is handy with the bat as well, right? So it's not like Stark and out of the three, like I think Hazelwood is the weakest link with the bat, but I think he's one of the amongst the best. So you can go.
I mean, I actually think England's. I think their squad is flawed. Given that they're going in with the 3 quicks, they should have had a backup quick also as part of the squad, right? Because right now they don't have a like-for-like replacement. Sean Abbott is more of an all-rounder than a real quick. So what's your pick for tomorrow's game?
I think it's a tricky one to call. I was thinking a lot. I mean, I would back, but I think Australia, but I think it's a game of thin margins.
Yeah. I think Australia should take this. Yeah,
that's what I'm going with. See, Sri Lanka, they've been batting pretty well actually. Both the last games. I mean, they scored 345 against us. They got 320 odd against South Africa. And they lost by 100 runs, but they still got 320 odd. But their bowling has obviously conceded like anything, and now with Pathirana out as well, if he doesn't play Shanaka out, they'll be more unsettled. Mendes is probably going to captain the side.
Mendes is probably due a low score, right?
Exactly, and the additional responsibility, keeping wickets, being the only one who's scoring hundreds, plus captaining the side. So they'll be quite unsettled, I think. So yeah, probably.
I think उनको चाहिए कि बस Mendes को अकेला भेज दें, बस वही सब करेगा.
वो 3-4 बार ले लेता है probably. And the way he batted against us, just unbelievable.
Okay, great stuff. Before we wrap up, Imran, there's a small matter of a quiz, which.
मुझसे Instagram follows ना पूछना.
Sorry.
मुझसे Instagram follows मत पूछना.
Sorry. So no, today is not Instagram. So can you just ignore the choices here? This is the question. England beat Afghanistan by 150 runs in the last World Cup in 2019. Which England batsman created a record for the most sixes in an innings, and how many sixes? Forget the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I forgot to take this out. So, question is, which England batsman scored the record for the most sixes for England in an ODI, and how many sixes?
So Morgan, and I'm pretty sure it was Morgan. The second part, I think it's going to be kind of a wild guess. Let's say 9.
27. How many did you say?
27?
No, I'm joking. How many did you say?
I said Morgan and 9.
9. It's 14 sixes. Wow. And I think that record may have been broken since, I'm not sure. But I feel like maybe Stokes has bettered that. But great stuff, Imran.
I got Morgan right.
You got Morgan right. So thank you for being on the show again. Pleasure having you here. And if you like our video, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back tomorrow night after the big Australia-Sri Lanka game. In the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.